listeners. Today is the big one, of course, with only 2 games left to play in the 2026 World Cup qualifiers in the CAF region for the Super Eagles, and 3 points separating first to fourth in our Group C. It's all or nothing for Nigeria. Literally, the time has come. Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 166 of the Nigeria Football Weekly podcast. My host, Olu Oke. And today I'll be doing a preview of our game against Lesotho, which will be taking place in South Africa in the Polokwane Stadium, literally on Friday in 3 days' time at 5 p.m. And we all know that this match, the objective is simple. Nigeria have to win and win very well. So let's get into it without any further ado. So what does the group look like so far? I'm sure you've seen all the previous videos since the permutations around South Africa's deducted points. But we've seen Benin, after 8 games played, everybody in our group has 2 more games left. Benin lead the group with 4 wins from their 8 games, 2 draws and 2 losses. 11 goals scored and 7 goals conceded for a goal difference of 4 and 14 points. They are equal on points with South Africa, who are second in the group. They've also won 4 games, drawn 2 and lost 2. Obviously, in reality, they won 5, but they broke the rules. So they have to take that second loss, which was awarded as a 3-0 win in favor of Lesotho, which means they now have 12 goals after 3 were taken from them, and then conceded 9 goals, but in reality it was 6. So their goal difference is now +3. And then you have Nigeria, the Super Eagles, with 8 games played, just 2 wins, both against Rwanda, 2-0 and 1-0. A whopping 5 draws, literally 2 against South Africa, 2 against Zimbabwe and 1 against Lesotho, and we have a solitary loss in the group, which was against Benin Republic last year. We've scored only 9 goals in our 8 games so far, and conceded a whopping 7 goals for a goal difference of +2, and we have 11 points. So, I mean, we've spoken about how shambolic it's been, but it really lets you know how bad it's been when you look at the tail of the tape and how we've performed. We also have Rwanda on 11 points, but they're 4th in the group by virtue of having a goal difference of 0. They've scored 5 goals and conceded only 5. So their games are very, very low scoring, as you can imagine. Of those 5 goals they've conceded, 3 literally were to Nigeria. So just to tell you about how they're a lot more of a trickier side than people are probably giving them credit for. They've won 3 games, they've drawn 2, and they've lost 3. Out of those 3, they lost 2 to Nigeria. So they're a bit of a yo-yo team. When they play at home, they play well, and when they play away, they don't play very well. And then we have Lesotho on 9 points. But it's going to be tricky for Lesotho to make the World Cup, because even if they win both of their games, the results in other groups means that they're very unlikely to make it to the World Cup. But they have 9 points with 2 wins from 8 games, 3 draws and 3 losses. And then Zimbabwe rounding up the group with 4 draws and 4 losses from their 8 games so far, a -6 goal difference and 4 points. I'll get into it later, but one of the things that may save us in this group is the fact that we probably have the best of all the worst teams. So out of all the teams that have been rubbish, when you think of the Djiboutis, the Sao Tomes, the Somalias of Africa, you know, you have to say that when you put Zimbabwe are going to AFCON. They're going to literally have to play South Africa. So you have to say that although we were given an easier group, we did not have any minnows to thrash like we gave Sao Tome 10-0 a few years ago, for example. So I'll get to that, but that may end up being a blessing in disguise for the Super Eagles. Now, what are the fixtures that we're going to be talking about going forward? Obviously, there's 2 match windows to come, which will all be played in the next 10 days. So this time next week, I'm recording this on Tuesday, the 7th of October. It's almost 8 p.m. And basically, this exact time next week, we will know whether Nigeria have made the World Cup or potentially sneaked in as one of the best second-place teams, or if we need to start figuring out which of our friendly neighbors we're going to support for the World Cup. So very, very crucial 7 days. And mind you, these moments don't come very often. You know, this is literally going to be Nigeria's last World Cup qualifying window until 2028. So just to give you an idea of how long these things are far apart, you know. So I hope and I pray that the Super Eagles will be on job and actually, just for professional pride and personal pride, can, you know, rise to the occasion and give us the joy that we'll be looking for, which we've got in really, really minuscule moments watching the Super Eagles over the past 2 years, ever since AFCON ended in February last year. So, on Friday, October 10th, this Friday, the good news is all 3 games in our group will be played at the same time at 5 p.m. We've got Lesotho playing Nigeria. at 5 p.m., like I said, in South Africa. And then we've got Rwanda playing Benin Republic. This will be played in Kigali, 5 p.m. as well. And then South Africa play their friendly neighbors, Zimbabwe, at 5 p.m. But this game will actually be played in South Africa, even though the Zimbabwe are the designated home team. But it's all good, you know, no need to cry about it. If the rest of us had good stadiums too, maybe they'll be playing in our country. So when the rest of Africa can become like Ivory Coast, South Africa, Morocco, where they're able to host other teams because they have the facilities, then we can talk. But us that are managing that, I mean, let's be honest, not so great Uyo Stadium. You know, when you think about the levels of stadiums all over the world or even in Africa, we can't really talk. In the whole of Nigeria, we only have one good stadium in Uyo. We don't even play games in Abuja and that Abuja stadium is just 20 years old, though. 22 years old. I went to the first game there, Nigeria, Brazil, 2003. And look at how decapitated and useless the stadium is now. We don't know how to maintain anything in our country. Don't even mention Lagos. I can't believe we used to even allow our boys playing Tesla in Balogun. In the whole of Lagos, with all the money, all the world, there's no one good stadium. So let's face our front. When we can get good stadiums, then we can complain about South Africa getting to play away games on their home soil. You two go and improve your own stadium. But anyway, we move. So, what's the tail of the tape between Lesotho and Nigeria, of course? The last time we played them was in November 2023 in Uyo under Jose Pesero when he was under pressure. This was also before AFCON, you know, where we were really watching some terrible Jose Pesero ball. And we managed to draw 1-1 against Lesotho. I know it feels very hard to believe. I mean, when you look at Lesotho's squad and level and ranking, I still think it must be one of the most disgraceful results we've seen in the history of Super Eagles. But to be honest, over the past 6 years, we've seen quite a few of them. We lost to Rwanda and Uyo. I remember one time we lost to Central African Republic. Man, Nigeria should not shaggy. Like, when you really think about it, we don't have anything like home dominance. All those years where we did not lose any World Cup qualifier in almost 20 years, from 2004 to Genoro times, those days are gone. Oh. So it is what it is. Just to refresh your memory in that game, we saw Mkwanazi, the Lesotho centre-back, score a goal from a corner kick. Terrible defending. It must be said that one of the things Pesero was able to fix by AFCON was the way we defended set pieces. But unfortunately, it's like we're not prepared for Lesotho at the time, and now we're paying the consequences, bringing our calculators. When it came to Nigeria, Semi Ajayi scored the equalizer for us in that game with a header as well from a corner kick. That was one of those games where you have to say Nigeria were not very good. Like, you could tell there's something about Nigeria when we play, and once there's pressure, it's as if they don't know how to play under pressure, especially if it's in Nigeria. If it's outside Nigeria and it's a tournament where they can lock in and be together, it's usually fine. But I don't know what it is with the setup in Uyo or the way they allow they prepare these players, or I don't know if it's like, you can't even say the crowd is hostile because they're all there to support you. But for some reason, we're not able to ever get the job done in a significant way when we play in that stadium. You know, when you look at the results you've had over the past few years, you know, it's quite concerning. But anyway, in that game, we saw Semi Ajayi score for us. And just to let you know how long ago this was, 2 years in football is a long time. We had Francis Zoho starting in goal. We had Brighter Isai Samuel starting at right back. Jamilu Collins was playing left back. Jamilu Collins that can't even play a game to save his life these days. Calvin Bassey partnered Ajayi in the middle of the park. We saw Frank Oyeka and Iwobi partner each other in the midfield, which was probably the blueprints for AFCON that we saw. And then somehow, crazily, Pesero decided to play Ademola Lookman and Iheanacho as wingers in a 4-4-2 formation with Victor Boniface and Taiwo Awoniyi up top. As we all know, Victor Boniface has no goals for Nigeria in his 13 caps. And when you look at Taiwo Awoniyi, I don't think Taiwo Awoniyi has more than 2 goals. Yeah, 2 goals in 10 games. So you can already imagine why this game went the way it was. Why you decide to play Iheanacho as a winger, I do not know. You know, but here we are. But I just wanted to refresh your memory to show you the kind of things that some of these our coaches or NFF people have put us in based on the way we've performed previously. So just shocking, to be honest. But this time, there's no room for errors. Look, this is it. It's do or die. We have to win both games if we want to have any chance of securing first place. And it's not even in our hands. And we have to score a lot of goals because a lot of it could come down to goal difference. At the moment, Nigeria has a goal difference of +2. South Africa have a goal difference of +3. And Benin have a goal difference of +4. Now, make no mistake about it, South Africa and Benin will be looking at their goal difference and how they can run it up. Even Rwanda with their 0 goal difference, if they want to stand any chance of beating South Africa, who they know they're going to play, imagine South Africa end up putting 3 past Zimbabwe, they'll go to +6. So Rwanda literally have to score goals too, you know. And I like how everyone is underrating them like they have no chance. But on home soil, they're quite a formidable outfit, it must be said. So a lot to look forward to and just to think about in this qualifying rounds. But we must score goals. That's the most important thing. All this one that in our whole qualifier so far, we've only scored 2 goals in one game, which was against Rwanda when Victor Osimhen played. All the other games, we've either scored 1 goal or 0. Just to give you an idea of how Nigeria have been performing in these qualifiers. Victor Osimhen, unfortunately, has only played 2 full games and the first half against Rwanda. And literally, he scored 3 goals in these 2.5 games. But a lot of what we can see in terms of our attack is the Super Eagles is Osimhen or nothing. We are too reliant on Victor Osimhen. And it's a shame because if Osimhen played these 8 games, we know his body can be quite brittle. He's always going to get injured every season. You know, when you look at the number of appearances he plays per year, it's just the way he is. He plays with aggression and he plays so hard, but he also leaves himself susceptible to injuries. Almost like how Jack Wilshere used to play. Remember, any Arsenal fans who remember that. But it's just a shame because I know for a fact Victor Osimhen played all these 8 games. We will not be pressing calculator here. There's a reason he's our second top goal scorer ever already with less than 50 caps. But we move. So what's the tail of the tape? Nigeria world rankings were now 45th in the world. We were 28th after AFCON. Now we're almost out of the top 50. Very shameful. Meanwhile, on paper, we definitely have a top 20 squad in the world. I will not hear any other opinions. That's just the facts. You know, CAF ranking, we're now 6th. We're not even one of the top dogs in our continent again. How can we be 6th? It's not good enough. Obviously, head coach Eric Shell. Lesotho, on the other hand, they are ranked 153rd in the world. Their CAF ranking is 45th. 45th out of, 52, 53 countries in Africa. Just to let you know how poor and low they are. But yet, Nigeria decided to draw against them. Their head coach is Leslie Notsi. And Nigeria, we've played Lesotho 5 times in our past. Each of the first 4 times we played Lesotho, we beat them. That 1-1 draw in New York is literally the first time we did not beat Lesotho. We beaten them 1-0 in Africa Cup of Nations qualifying in October 2006. We beat them 2-0 on home soil in September 2007 in AFCON qualification for the 2008 AFCON where we went out in the quarterfinals to Ghana. And then in November 2019, we beat them 4-2. I remember that game. I think Osimhen scored a couple goals in that game as well. And then we beat them 3-0 just over 3 years ago in March 2021. Of course, that was before the November embarrassment where we somehow decided that we can draw against Lesotho. So, who are the players to watch out for our opponents? Modlomelo Mkwanazi, he's the centre-back that scored against us in the 2023 November fixture. Look, at the end of the day, yes, we've progressed in terms of the way we defend set pieces since then. But at the end of the day, football is all about moments. You know, and Nigeria conceding, we literally lost that Lesotho game because we couldn't defend the set piece. If you go and watch the highlights again, just look how awful our defending was for the goal they scored. You know, so we have to be careful and we better take our time. Their goalkeeper is Sekwane Moerane. He plays for such a lowly club that it's almost embarrassing that we not beat these people. They've also got Lelohonolo Fotuane. He's the midfielder that scored their last goal in the qualifiers when they drew 1-1 against Rwanda. And they've also got Motebank Sarah, their centre forward. Just to let you know how bad Lesotho are as a footballing institution. Over this last international break in September, Lesotho lost 3-0 to South Africa. And honestly, when you watch the goals that they conceded, you have to say that they're a pretty hapless team. And then they managed to then lose 4-0 to Benin Republic. They were already 3-0 down after 33 minutes against our neighbors. By the way, the person that was correcting me about saying Benin Republic, the English pronunciation of Benin Republic is Benin Republic. I know in Nigeria we say Benin. Let the French say Benin. But please check the linguistics here. I appreciate the correction. But if you see the confidence this babe said, he's doing me the way I pronounce this name. I was thinking, man, she must be so right. But I took her correction on Wabali. She said it's Wabali, not Nwabali. So I take that one there. But anyway, that's just to give you a flavor of how bad Lesotho are, man. I'm telling you. Like, they should be the whipping boys in the group. They're even worse than Zimbabwe, if we're being honest. But somehow, because of obviously even the 3 points awarded to Lesotho, they have a 5-point lead over Zimbabwe. So Zimbabwe should be ashamed of themselves, you know. But what does that mean? Could there be something around like, you know, hope or looking at how they could perform? We shall see. But what are the things we need to look out for in this game? Look, we don't need to talk too much about this preview. At the end of the day, Nigeria, we know exactly what we have to do. You know, we have to create a lot more chances. The fact that we've not scored more than 1 goal in any game except one in these qualifiers just tells you how shambolic things have been. I don't even think there's any match under Eric Shell so far that we scored more than 2 goals. Even when you look at the friendly games, we do not create enough chances. We don't. For a team with better players, I'm sorry, Eric Shell, you're trying to make a name for yourself in your career. This is the best job you have so far in terms of opportunity-wise. And make no mistake about it, if you bottle the Nigeria job, you're never getting a better job. What are you doing with the team? You should be doing everything to allow these players to express themselves and make you also look good as the manager. And that's something that we're yet to see so far. You know, even when you look at our Unity Cup games or playing against Russia, our goal we scored was literally a mistake. You know, we're drawing against Jamaica, beating Jamaica up, and that's Jamaica. Come on, mate. You know, even Ghana that we beat 2-1, okay, we take that one. But do you see the squads both of us put out? So we're yet to see a convincing performance under Eric Shell. I'll say the closest we've seen is the 2-0 beat Rwanda. But let's be honest, that was all Victor Osimhen and how clinical he is. We should have created more chances in that game, and we didn't. Also, like I said, we need to be clinical and learn how to play without pressure. Yes, there's pressure, but you guys are players. You've played in intense atmospheres throughout your careers, whether for your club sides, AFCON, or whatever it may be. So you must be used to the pressure. Embrace the pressure. Pressure makes diamonds. If there's no pressure, it means you failed. You know, do you want to be like a Lesotho there, just come into qualifiers to just play games and nothing is going anywhere? We demand big things from Super Eagles because we know you're capable. Now all of a sudden you go all over the internet, everyone's talking about how can you imagine Super Eagles are not going to make the World Cup. There's a certain level of respect you already have as players and as a country based on how good you are and how well you play for your clubs. But it can only be maintained by good performances. And it has to be said that since AFCON ended and we let Pesero go, or he decided to leave us, it's not been good enough. You know, how can we be looking at World Cup qualifiers after 8 games and here we are? So we must also cut out the mistakes. There's no room for error. No room for error. I've also looked at the pitch in this Polokwane place. The pitch is good. So there's no excuse. Play your football. Other we saw I not get injured. Didi Osimhen. None of that. Play ball. Let's see you perform for once. So Eric Shell, we're watching you under the clock. Like I said in the last episode, NFF will not say to fire you before December. Someone else might prosecute that friendly if you don't play these last 2 games with Senso. And you also have to live and die by your sword. Because when we look at the squad, remember, we know that Zedu Sanusi has been brought to the squad and Christian Uche is brought to the squad. But we have no recognized right back. He could have even called up Awaziem. We saw Awaziem play right back in 2019 AFCON. He decided to drop Awaziem without playing him and bring Shemi Ajayi. So now we're about to play 2 games with no recognized right back, which means more than likely they'll have Benjamin Frederick, who's literally still starting out his career both for club and country, playing as the right back in an unnatural position for him. If anything goes wrong now, you say my player, brother, no excuses anymore. Yes, we know NFF are incompetent. Yes, we know they don't give you the best conditions to succeed. But I don't agree with everything Mikel says, but when you look at his record for the national team, we'd not fail to make a World Cup once. We made a World Cup every single time. You know, and that's why I'm still dealing with the NFF politics. So players, with your pride and who you are, a lot of you, if you don't make this World Cup, you're never going to play in the World Cup again. Oh. So take time and watch out, please. It's very, very important. This disgrace needs to stop. But one of the things that I also want to talk about in terms of our group is the fact that everybody has something to play for. You know, quickly before I talk about the expected exile, you know, you look at Rwanda and Benin. Rwanda would be desperate to win the game because that would keep them with a chance of making the World Cup. Benin Republic, they've never had an opportunity this good in their lives. They probably can't believe their luck, but it lets you know how good of a coach Genoro is. You know, that he's doing this kind of thing with Benin Republic. But also, Benin Republic have much better players than a lot of us know. Tosin Egu is a very good player. Steve Mounier is a seasoned striker. They've also got Hutunji, who plays for St. Pauli, who's been running it up in the Bundesliga so far this season. So this this is not a team that's useless. We still have Junior Lighton as well. So we need to stop thinking about Benin as the Benin of the past. They're the ones that ever beat us in this group. So Benin will also have something to play for, so it'll be interesting to see how this game goes. A lot of South Africans think that the game against Zimbabwe is going to be a walkover. When you look at their head-to-head, a lot of their games have always been a one-goal difference. The last game, they even beat Zimbabwe 3-1. I watched the highlights. You have to say Zimbabwe literally shot themselves in the foot. After 2 minutes, it was 1-1. The same Chirewa guy that scored against us scored against South Africa. And then South Africa scored 2 goals in the second half. So make no mistake, this is a derby and Zimbabwe are still playing for pride. Zimbabwe qualified for AFCON in December. And ironically, South Africa are going to be in their group again. So this is literally a tester before they play South Africa again in December. So Zimbabwe still have something to play for, even though a lot of South Africans seem to think it will be a walkover and they will just flog Zimbabwe and they will just beat Rwanda. But these teams are not that useless, And I would like to see how the South Africans play with the pressure of knowing that they've literally shot themselves in the foot and lost 3 points that they worked so hard for. How does that feel psychologically? We know they've had an issue in qualifying for AFCON in 2012 where they thought they qualified if they drew, but they actually didn't. So psychologically, how does that affect them? They're yet to qualify directly for a World Cup since 2002. So does the pressure get to them? Who knows? Don't get me wrong, I will admit South Africa are probably still the favorites because if they win both of their games and Nigeria will do what we need to do, there's a world where South Africa will qualify by 3 points. But make no mistake about it, if they somehow manage to draw both of the games or contrive to even lose one, even if it's by accident, all of a sudden, and in African football, we've seen more interesting things happen that we didn't expect. So watch out for this space. Now, in terms of the Super Eagles lineup, it's a tricky one to say with Eric Shaw because I don't know if he's an overthinker or he over worries, but there's definitely moments where you can see some of his decision making is a bit interesting. When you look at our team that we used to play against Rwanda, you have to say that one, there's probably no qualms with that. He had Nwabali in goal, Olaino and Oyemachi as our fullbacks, Benjamin Frederick and Calvin Bassey in the center of defense, Ndidi and Franco Yeka in the middle of the park, Iwobi as the cam, Moses Simon and Lukman as the wingers, and then Victor Osimhen up top. But remember, that's the game that we saw Lukman and Simon literally getting each other's way. So nobody really played calm in that game. So that was the first issue we had. Osimhen obviously came off after 30 minutes, and then we scored that goal by Rokodare. But we have to be honest, we didn't create as many chances as we would have liked. And then, to now play South Africa, just to explain why Eric Shell is on the clock. The same person that scored his goal against Rwanda and also scored the previous goal in Nigeria's last match against Russia before that game, Tolera Kodare, was somehow inadvertently put on the bench, even though Nigeria had a physical advantage over South Africa. He decided to start Cyril Dessers. So that was a very interesting decision. He then decided that he's going to bring in Troost-Ekong into the game, and then he played Calvin Bassey as a left back. The Calvin Bassey one, you can understand the thinking with dealing with the, I forgot his name, Know-how, the South African fast winger. But what happened? You tweaked things too much, and Troost-Ekong then made a mistake, which got the own goal. Olaino had to come off injured, and Brighter Samuel came to replace him. And then in this game, we saw Ndidi and Iwobi actually start in the middle. And then Fisara Delebashu started as the cam, Simon and Lukman on the wings, which was not too bad. But remember against South Africa as well, it's like our right wing was non-existent. So what were the instructions from Eric Shell? The one time we attacked down the right wing was when Fisara Delebashu crossed the ball for Bassey to head the ball home, So you have to admit that when you look at the squads and the chopping and changing, we're still not sure exactly what Eric Shell's ideas are. Or, he's not yet settled on the exact team structure for how he wants the Super Eagles to play. And he claims he's an attacking manager, but we're yet to see that in fruition, So anyway, when we look at these things and we think about it, the selection could literally be anything. But based on the information we have, I'll try to predict my starting lineup. We know Nwabali will start the game. That one is sure. So at least that one is good. Now, we know Calvin Bassey will definitely start. He's our best defender, and he will start in the middle of defense. Now, this is where it gets interesting because remember, NFF are inadvertently not invited any right back. Even though Felix Agu has been confirmed injured, they did not invite a replacement. So we have a 22-man squad rather than 23. Knowing NFF, could it be a money or logistics issue? Because how can you tell me that you're leaving the coach without a right back? There was enough time to call up a replacement, but they decided not to do it. So whatever happens now, I don't want to hear any excuse because you decided that you want to go with this team. Eric Shell and NFF. Technical director Esther Gavon, they've been calling technical director all these years. He never loses his job. There's no consequence for bad performance. He's just there, technical director for life. But all of you even know this is the first time Nigeria potentially not make a back-to-back World Cup since we qualified in '94. Heads must roll you, whether you like it or not. So Eric Shell, you will live and die by these your choices. So based on that, I think we'll have to see Benjamin Frederick play right back. I'm not personally confident, as I've told you before. He has less than 20 appearances in his career, both for club and country. Yes, we love him and he played very well, but you cannot be putting people in positions where they're uncomfortable playing. But what can we do? Is Lesotho will manage. It's even the Benin one that I'm more worried about because Benin wingers are nothing to be played with. And you see how moments affect games. AFCON final, if I know was not injured and Adingra did not cook him, we could have been African champions by now. So just to let you know the things that are making me worried, they could have called Taranebue, they did not call. They could have called Awaziem, my left team, they did not call. So we have to live by whatever they've given us. What does this now mean? It means that now, because Frederick cannot play as centre-back, either Troost-Ekong, who we already can see is declining in terms of his powers, or Shemi Ajayi, who's really terrible on the ball, will have to start in defence with Calvin Bassey. So whatever one of them to play, we'll take it like that and pray to God. Because honestly, I don't know what else to do. Now, the positive news is I think with Felix Agu's injury and Onyemachi not playing against Olympiacos, Zedu Sanusi should start at left back. Yes, he has not played since AFCON, but he's a seasoned player playing for one of the best teams in Portugal, playing in Europa League, normally Champions League regulars, and really playing well, especially in the recent games. So at least I will hope Sanusi will start. But there's a world where he may play Onyemachi. Whatever Eric Shaw decides to do, he will live or die by a sword. So we'll just be observing, Sha. Now, in the middle of the pitch, it's an interesting one because we know Onyedika is injured. So I think the midfield picks itself. Wilfred Ndidi will start. Frank Oyeka will start. I heard some rumors about Ndidi being injured, but I watched the game against Galatasaray. He played the match now, and he's in camp. So I expect Ndidi and Oyeka to start as the midfield pivot with Alex Iwobi playing as our cam. We don't have any Fisaya Delebashiru this time, and Christian Tuche has not yet been playing any meaningful minutes for Crystal Palace to force his way into the squad or be match fit. Remember, Iwobi keeps flourishing in the Premier League, but unfortunately, we just have to manage him as cam. I still think we need to play him in his best position sometimes, but unfortunately, our left wing is quite crowded. So Iwobi, we're looking to you to create chances for us. And I thought he did a decent job in some of our recent games, but our finishing is also not the best, if I'm being honest. So let's just see. Let's just hope that is a new chapter. And then up top, we know that Victor Osimhen will start. Look, if Victor Osimhen gets injured at any moment in these two games, especially against Benin, just cancel your flights. Decide if you want to support Ghana or if you want to support Morocco, or if you are a dual national, you like England, you like America, go and support them, or Canada, or the other countries we some of us are affiliated to. Because I'm telling you, Victor Osimhen does not play the majority of all the minutes for these two games. We are not winning both of those games. Based on the evidence we have seen so far, that's just stone cold facts. The only two games we have won in this group, Osimhen played in two of them. Even when he came off after 30 minutes, no Osimhen, no party. Now on the wings, I think it's fairly simple. Ademola Lookman will start. He's been starting games for Atalanta, which is good to see over the past week. Lookman is still the African Footballer of the Year, and we know he's not had the best 2025 for the Super Eagles. But when you have a talent like that, who had his best season ever last year, this season that just passed, when he did not even win African Footballer of the Year, you must always put players like that on the pitch. And it's time for Lookman to deliver and do something for us. Now, the only thing I'm not sure about is if Eric Shell will play Chukwueze, who's the natural right winger in this game, or if he will play Moses Simon. Based on caps and experience, we know that Nigerian coaches really like to start Simon. So I predict he will start Moses Simon on the right wing, but I personally hope that he plays Chukwueze, who's more natural in that position, and also has a good relationship with Victor Osimhen. So let's see what happens. It's an interesting lineup, but for the most part, I think most positions, except who's going to be the centre-back partner of Bassi and who's going to play between Simon and Chukwueze. I think everything else is pretty much fixed based on the squad we can see so far. You know, you like to hope that the Aroko Daris of the world, or even the Solakule Olusegun, who some people seem to think is really, really good in my comments, may come off the bench and make an impact. But Chris Ansuche as well. But I think looking at the squad we have, you can be certain that 8 or 9 of these players will definitely start. So let's see how the game goes. What are my score predictions for this game? Now, look, using head normally and heart, if you just looked at the level of the team and how good we are, Nigeria should be winning this game 3-0 or 4-0. That's the honest truth. Lesotho are a really, 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 really bad national team. So my heart is hoping for a 4-0 because we need the goal difference and we need a statement win. We need a win from Nigeria where we're not worried. We're not calculating anything. We're not panicking. We're not scratching our head. We're not lamenting on the live watch-along stream. But my head tells me that knowing Nigeria that has yet to score more than 2 goals in any game, my head is telling me it will be 2-0. Even that 2-0, can I tell you with full certainty that I'm sure Nigeria will beat Lesotho? The honest truth is, at this current position we're in, we cannot see anything as a fact. You see South Africa, their confidence in my comments. Shout out South Africans for all the engagements. Thank you guys so much. And some of them have really given me some really lovely words in terms of the content, which I appreciate. But South Africa, you see how confident they are? It's because the evidence of how their team has been playing since they lost that AFCON semi-final against Nigeria. The workings are there. No be cho-cho-cho. Yes, they are cho-cho-cho, they are talking, but they've seen evidence of their team play well. Structure, settled team, attacking football, players being prolific. So that's why even though they've deducted 3 points from them, they're like, Zimbabwe, Rwanda, no problem, come. But Nigeria, based on the evidence we've seen, we cannot say with our koro eyes and say, we are sure we will thrash Lesotho. We are not sure. We have no idea. We have not seen it happen this year. So, all I will say is I'm hoping, because God knows, I've already made peace with the fact we may not go. It's not a fact. I've already made peace if we do not make the World Cup, because we've been so shambolic that we've had time to adjust. Once that Zimbabwe goal went in that day in March, I already mentally prepared that it's not going to happen. And they already gave us 2018 where we prepared ourselves for knowing that we'll not watch our country in World Cup. Nike must be tired of Nigeria, man. If we don't make World Cup, I won't be surprised if they cancel that contract. But anyway, let's just hope. So my head says it will be a 2-0 win because Lesotho are just that bad. And Nigeria, at some point, your talent has to show, And then my heart hopes for a 4-0 thrashing where we can really put the sword to these guys and let Benin know that when they're coming to play us, they're in for a hell of a game. Like the 3-0 we beat them last year. So that's what I want from us. I also need the kind of statement victory that South Africa will be quaking in their boots. That if they mistakenly make an error against Rwanda and lose, they're going to be in big soup. Or if they even draw against Zimbabwe. You just have to do your best and leave the rest. That's all Nigeria have to do. And I hope we can somehow trust them this time to do it. It's so sad that I trust Nigeria more in AFCON than qualifiers. Because AFCON is as if because they are there, the camaraderie. I even heard from one of Bassi and Iwobi's, the Alex Iwobi and Kevin Bassi show on Fulham's YouTube channel, that in the last AFCON, they all had their own individual rooms. I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't know that NFF, at least sometimes, even if it's high service, they decide to upgrade the boys. But, these are the kind of things you want to hear. Yes, improve. Let's see better things for them. But when it comes to qualifiers, I don't know if it's the stop-start nature of the games. They're only in camp for 3-4 days. They've only got maybe a few sessions to prepare. But for some reason, we just cannot put together a great qualification game. At least this year and under Eric Shell. So let's continue to watch and observe and see how the team performs. The one positive I would say, if I'm looking for positives, is under the 4 World Cup qualifying games Nigeria have played against under Eric Shell, the 2 goals we've conceded, one was the Chirewa last-minute goal, which Troost-Ekong made a mistake. So we can say it's an anomaly. And then, ironically, Troost-Ekong's own goal against South Africa. So Troost-Ekong, please stop sabotaging the manager. I actually love you. I think you should stay in the squad because your leadership is better than most of our players. I think once Ekong retires, just make Osimhen captain. Do what England did with Kane. Do what France have done with Mbappe. Do what Poland did with Lewandowski. Make your best player the captain. Give him the responsibility. so that he knows. I don't care if they say he's hot-headed. He's by far the most important Super Eagles player. By far. All this indeed, give Osimhen the armband. But anyway, Ekong, we'll see what happens. So in terms of conceding, it's not like we've really been horrible at defending, but we must be careful because we don't score enough. That's still the problem, you know. So let's see how it goes. I'm really, really excited for the game. Remember to join us for the live stream watch along. We're going to be doing that 5 p.m. on Friday, both Nigeria time, UK time, wherever you are. If you're outside Nigeria, the game will be on fifaplus.com, or it's on FIFA Plus, plus.fifa.com. You can find the game on there. And if you're in Nigeria, I'm pretty sure it'll be on Super Sports, so watch this space. Now, where it gets interesting, this is a nice long one because it deserves to be, because like I said, no more World Cup qualifiers to 2028. What are the other games in our group and what are the stakes? I already mentioned about South Africa versus Zimbabwe. South Africa need to win the remaining 2 games to secure qualification to the World Cup, provided that Benin draw or lose one of their games. And they also have to make sure they better Benin's goal difference. Benin face Rwanda and Nigeria, both 3 points behind Benin and still in contention. And you could say Zimbabwe have nothing to play for. The interesting thing is this game is being played at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in South Africa. And the one thing I have to say is South Africa will be desperate to score a lot of goals. So is there a world where they could open up at the back, and if they don't take time, they could concede to Zimbabwe? Look, Zimbabwe are not that bad of a team as people keep making them out. Even if you watch Premier League, Munetsia Wolves, Chirewa, Premier League, like they have certain decent players. What's that guy, Marvelous Nakamba? Like they're not as bad as we try to make them out to be. Yes, they're not great either, but if you don't take time against them, they could hurt you. So that's one thing to be aware about. And there's a lot, basically almost every team still has something to play for in this group. Even Zimbabwe playing for pride, I already mentioned, they're playing South Africa and AFCON. So let's see what can happen. And when you have these neighboring derbies, they're never that easy. Nigeria, remember how we played Benin one time, Onuachu scored last minute header. When you play on neighbors, it's not that easy. Last year, yes, we beat Benin 3-0. But even that one, it was a pleasant surprise, you know. So let's watch this space. So let's see what happens between Zimbabwe and South Africa. But if I'm being honest, my head tells me South Africa would get a routine 2-0 win. Or maybe 3-1 or 2-1. But South Africa should win the game. They're at home. And to be fair, based on the 8 games so far, they've been the best team in the group. We can't take that away from them. But at the end of the day, rules are rules, you know, and here they are. But I do think South Africa will beat Zimbabwe, to be honest. Obviously, my heart is hoping somehow South Africa underestimate them and it's a 1-1 draw. Because if South Africa somehow do not win the game on Friday, I think they could be in real big soup. So watch this space. And then also, Rwanda versus Benin. What's at stake? Rwanda have a chance just like Nigeria. If they win, they could be second or third depending on Nigeria's results against Lesotho and South Africa versus Zimbabwe. Benin would like to stay on top, of course, and head into the final game versus Nigeria in pole position to qualify for the World Cup. If you're from Benin Republic, realistically, how many times in your lives can you say with 2 games to go, you have a chance to qualify for the World Cup? Things can change, don't get me wrong. I even watched a great interview by the CEO of Sporting Lagos, or the chairman, George Inakena, and he was talking about how he runs a basketball team in Nigeria, and half of his players got lost to Benin Republic because they pay 7 times better over there. So even Benin that we're looking down on, you can see the processes coming to fruition. Whether that is in their setup, signing Genoro, having a much better pool of players to pick for, or delivering results. So let's see how this game goes. To be honest, I have no idea how this one could go. Rwanda are strong at home, but you have to say that when you look at talent, Benin are much better than them. And my feeling is I think Benin will win this game 2-0 or 2-1, just because of the opportunity they have right ahead of them. So that should lead with Benin and South Africa winning their games. And then we go into the final games where South Africa would then play Rwanda. But Rwanda will know that if they win the game, they could literally take a feather off the... basically, it would be great for them if they can take points off South Africa. And Benin, of course, come to Uyo with our former manager, Genoro, who qualified us to our last World Cup appearance. But you have to say that in Uyo, you'll be very surprised if we lose to Benin Republic. But anyway, these are the games to worry about for Friday and take into account. So let's see how the game goes. But I do predict with my head a South Africa win against Zimbabwe and a Benin win against Rwanda. So watch this space and let's see how it goes. Now, before ending this podcast, I wanted to do a quick update around the permutations around the 4 best second place teams. Now, the reason for doing this is, look, there's a world where if Nigeria don't win on Friday, this content will not be useful after Friday. So let me mention it now while there's hope. I've done my research about the possibility of Nigeria qualifying as one of the best second place teams after Eritrea's withdrawal from Group E. Now, just so you know, every group, all 9 groups have 6 teams in their group, except one, Group E. Group E have 5 teams. Morocco have already qualified from that group, and then you've got Tanzania and Niger who are vying for second spot in that group. Now, because Eritrea withdrew from qualification from that group because of fear of their players seeking asylum, it means that whoever finishes second in Group E would only have played 8 games. Meanwhile, every other group would have played 10 games. Now, whether you like to not, if you're Tanzania or Niger or Zambia, that is not fair because you do not have the opportunity to get an additional 6 extra points. Yeah? Are you with me? Now, based on the usual process and what I've seen in terms of precedents, what then happens to make it fair is when all the teams are finished second, the regional body, whether it's FIFA or CAF, will then bring all the points that these second place teams have and games played, but to equalize it, to make it an equal 8 games played, they will remove the results of the second place teams against the bottom place team in each group. Are you with me? So what this means is every second place team will now be judged based on 8 games they played. But of course, based on the strength of the group, it makes sense to minus the 6 points from the worst team rather than 6 points from who you played against the best team. So now, I thought this was initial hearsay, but after doing my research, this happened for the 2016 Euros. You know, France hosted but didn't take part in qualifiers, leaving a group with 1 less team. The top 2 teams qualified, but the teams in 3rd place had the results against the bottom teams removed to make it equal to determine who the best 3rd place teams were. The same procedure also happened for the 2022 World Cup qualifiers in Asia, where North Korea withdrew from Group H, and the same process was applied to determine the second best place teams. In the 2019 Asian Cup as well, where UAE was hosting but also played group stage games, the best 3rd place team had their results against the bottom team nullified. Now, the 2018 and 2022 UEFA World Cup qualifiers also had the same process because some groups had 5 teams and some had 6. Now, any team that had 6 teams, the results against the bottom teams were not included in the ranking for the best second place teams. CAF will most likely take this into consideration, but I must confirm that FIFA and CAF have not yet announced the procedure they're going to use. But when you look at the precedent that we've seen over the past 10, 20 years, and to make it equal for Group E, whoever finishes second in Group E, it is likely CAF will apply the same logic. Now, if they apply that same logic, what will now happen is that because our group has the strongest, most useless team in Zimbabwe, they will be minusing 2 points from Nigeria because we drew against Zimbabwe, we not beat them. So it's quite ironic that the Troost-Ekong mistake may end up being a blessing for us for second place. Are you with me? That being said, we all know what are the chances of Nigeria if we finish second anyway. So we already know we got our 2 draws against Zimbabwe, and it's very unlikely Zimbabwe will win both of their games in this qualifying round to go above Lesotho. Because if it's now Lesotho at the bottom team, they will minus 4 points from us, assuming we get 3 points on Friday. So I've now gone and done a whole bunch of research. Shout out to Gemini and AI. So I tried to predict the results of all the other groups for these next 2 games to have a good idea of where we will end up at in our group. And I must say that it gives me a bit more hope than I initially had. Now, why do I say this? we know already that Morocco and Tunisia have already qualified, by the way. And also, before I touch on the second place things, Ghana can also qualify tomorrow. Cape Verde can also qualify tomorrow if they beat Libya away, but that's going to be a tough game. Egypt could also qualify tomorrow once they beat Djibouti, so that one is definitely signed, sealed, and delivered. Senegal, if they beat South Sudan away and DR Congo fail to beat Togo, will also qualify. And Ivory Coast will also qualify this Friday if they beat Seychelles, and Gabon failed to beat Gambia away. So it lets you also know the tale of two AFCON finalists, by the way. Ivory Coast are unbeaten in World Cup qualifiers. Ever since they changed to that fire guy, they've played these games, they've not considered one goal. Them and Tunisia, they've not considered any goal. You know? So meanwhile, Nigeria were yet to win two games in a row. But anyway, the reason why I'm bringing this up is when you look at the points, a lot of the second place teams that already have points, they all got 6 points against the useless teams in their group. Now, I'm 99% sure Gabon and Cameroon are virtually guaranteed playoff spots. And there's a world where DR Congo, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria, if we win our games and do what we need to do goal difference-wise, are the three teams that will battle for that final 2 spots. Now, why is this? Burkina Faso plays Sierra Leone away tomorrow. And Sierra Leone have a very good record when they play at home in Liberia. So if Burkina Faso fail to win, that could really put some serious damage to their chance of qualifying. But if they beat Sierra Leone, and especially with their goal difference, it could really help them out. So watch this space. Make sure you watch the Burkina Faso game tomorrow, or at least keep an eye on it. Also, DR Congo go away to play Togo on Friday. It's another one to monitor, and then they play home against Sudan. Sudan are high flyers in their group. They're third. Remember, Kwesi Appiah knocked out Ghana from the AFCON qualifiers. But there's a world where these are two teams we have to monitor. But based on my calculations and what I've been able to look at when you look at our performances, and mind you, this is just based on Nigeria beating Lesotho 4-0 and Nigeria somehow beating Benin Republic by 1 goal or 2 goals. You will then see that they're going to minus the points to make it an equal 8 games played for the group. And I have Nigeria sneaking in as the third best second place side. Mind you, if this is not implemented, there will be some kind of legal action from Tanzania or Niger. So it is very likely. It's just annoying that we've not yet seen it confirmed. So this gives hope for that continental playoff, because there's a world where, by my predictions, it will be Cameroon, Gabon, Nigeria, and DR Congo who make the group. Now, there's a world where if Burkina Faso will beat Sierra Leone tomorrow, we could sneak in ahead of a DR Congo. But basically, we have to hope that DR Congo and Burkina Faso do not win all their games. When I look at Group G with Mozambique, Group I with Mali, Group H with Namibia, I don't think any of those teams have any chance of finishing as one of the best second place teams, because they either have to play the strongest team in their group or very tricky games that they're just not going to win both games. So what does this mean? Based on the new ranking, we could see Cameroon, Gabon, Nigeria, and DR Congo advancing to the continental playoff to be played in November, which will be one-off games. So let's see, Sha. But I'm just saying that there's hope. You know, we will know more after Friday based on how all the other second place teams perform. But please know that I've done this research and there's precedent around minusing points from the bottom ranked team in uneven groups. So let's see what happens with the Super Eagles and how we perform. But all these permutations do not matter if we do not get 6 points from a possible 6 points. So looking forward to the game on Friday. Remember, it's 5 p.m. Nigeria time. We will be live streaming the watch along for that game, and of course doing a review episode and a hot takes episode. So please look out for that content. Make sure you support the Super Eagles, and hopefully they don't go shame us this time. And that's it for this episode of the podcast. And I'll see you on episode 167, where we do the review of the episode. But if you're watching this and you join me on the live stream, I will see you on Friday in a do or die game for the Super Eagles. So that's it for this episode. Thanks again for listening to me. I've been Oluoke, your host. We're Nigeria Football Weekly on all social media channels and at NFWPOD on Twitter. Enjoy the match, and I'll see you guys on Friday. Take care, and hopefully Super Eagles, please.
Thanks for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and click the bell to get a notification whenever we drop a video. You can also find our social media channels listed below. And of course, up Super Eagles and Nigeria, they ever carry last.